Alright, so let's now finally start building our application. We basically have 5 parts that we have to do. The first part is like we have to check for the user token in index.js, and this is quite some work, so this is going to take most of our time. Index.js will have certain points where it will redirect our user to index app and eventually also to app.js. We'll come to this later, but that's what happened. And we also have the login start and the login end file. And I can show you in the authentication schema. We have a no token, login start, the logins process, login end. So that's basically where that's coming from. Last but not least, we're going to deploy the app and test it. And I think this lecture will take roughly half an hour. So get yourself a drink and let's get started. So let's have a look. What we're actually going to do, we're going to work in the index.js. And I don't think I need to have app here anymore. And that means that this will not work, but we'll come back to that later. So for now, I'll just test. Okay, no problem. So React done, and I also have to import that Microsoft Team package. So you do it like this from at Microsoft Teams package. Okay, and I'm not even certain how it exports the things. It imports it by using the script tag. So what I did was I used import everything from as Microsoft Teams. So that way it's clear to us what it's doing. We probably need to make a adal config. So we're probably gonna get another import, which would be adal config. Okay, no problem. And the Microsoft Teams package, we have to initialize it. All right. So that's the most basic implementation that we have right now. That is just our packages, and we make certain that the Microsoft Team package is available within our application. So what I actually want to do, I want to run a function that will happen when the DOM has loaded. So it's equivalent to jQuery document.ready basically. And since I do not support IE version 9 or lower, I can actually do it this way. DOM contents loaded. DOM content loaded. Yeah, I have to make certain that no spelling or no typos. Function. Okay, and we're going to say we're going to have a function, and I call it run with adal because it basically means we're going to use adal to log in. So even though it seems like it's a higher order function, it should be just perfect. Okay, so let's do that. I could make an arrow function here, but I think it's more readable to do it this way, so I just keep it this way. Run with adal. Excuse me. And here I will do I will do an anonymous arrow function, and I also have to close it off, of course. And within here I can actually say I'm going to require, we can do it this way because I'm using Webpack, and I say index app.js, which doesn't exist yet, but we'll come to this later. Well, maybe we should just do it right now. It's also not a problem. So we go into here, and I said index app.js, and what I'm going to do is import statement react, and React is like a default export. Then after that we're going to import React DOM. React DOM is also a default export, so you can name it whatever you want, but this is like a common convention, even though it's not Pascal case. Import from React router DOM. What do we need from there? We need browser router. Alright. Import app. So we're going to use this as a wrapper for our app file. You don't necessarily need this, but I like to use it this way because I want to initialize my store in a separate package from where my client is going to run, so that I'm always certain that my Redux store is initiated before anything might happen. So I'm going to get a const root elements, and that equals document.getElement by ID root. Okay, I'll show you where you can find this in a moment. So we're going to use the React DOM, and we said we're going to use a render. So this basically initializes our app. I'm going to do a browser router. Okay, that's auto completion. I'm going to do app, and I'm using Prettier, so I don't really need to format my code, but I do have a mistake here. Why am I having a mistake here? Because I did not close off app. Now it should work. Okay, and once I save it, it will just auto format, and that's a plugin that, hey, they changed it a little bit. I think it's here. Where is that? Prettier, it's over there. So once you do control save, or like you save your file, it will format your code. It's really awesome. So like I said, we were getting the element by ID root, so we have to know where it comes from, and that's in the public folder. There is an index file which only has one thing inside of it, and that's your root. So that's basically where we are injecting our React application. Okay, since we get that out of the way, I saved, so this one also formatted. We're going to continue, and we have to be in index. Yeah, we can actually start doing the check whether the token is there. So if we go up a little bit, we're going to do this check right now, like is there a user or a token, and we can do that by var href equals window.location dot href dot split, and for the split I'm going to use pound sign, and we take the first part of that. So if there's a token already, we just take the first part before the token, and that would basically be our URL. And now we're going to initiate a check to see if href is unequal, because we don't want this to happen when we're on the login start or end page, because then our login will be frustrated. So yeah, let's do it this way. Template literals es6 function window.location origin and /login start, and we also don't want it to be like the login end. I'm not gonna type that all again because it takes time, and I'm pretty lazy. I should have copied the whole thing, but okay. So login ends. Pardon me. So that's our first check, and then we actually need to have like authentication context, because we need to know what the context is. which application ID we have, etc. So in here I'll create a folder called adal, which stands for Active Directory Authentication Library, and within there we're going to use adal config.js, and I copy a file because otherwise it takes me a lot of typing. I'll show you where to get it. So if we go to React adal by npm, we can actually see like how to use it. Like run with adal, we're not going to use it this way, we're going to use it in that way. And this is basically the file that you want to copy. I already have it and I've extended it a little bit, so let's just walk over it because this is very error prone to type. I told you earlier that we need to have our client ID. So if we go to our app registrations, which is inside of Azure Active Directory, we first created image video authentication for tabs, and there for me is a client ID, application client ID. We need to copy that, and at that time we're going to override this. Now I don't like ES5 syntax anymore, so I'm going to do it this way. I think it's a little bit cleaner because you don't have the plus signs everywhere, and you know it's not a calculation this way. Okay, we're only going to get a token for the Microsoft Graph. We're going to store it in the local storage, which is fine. I mean, you could do like the session storage. It's just your personal preference. I prefer the local storage. Pop-up is false, otherwise it will pop up immediately. And there's a callback with an error description, token error, and a token type. Okay, we're not really going to get into this right now. But basically when there's a callback, it will use the Microsoft Team package and tell them like notify success or failure. We create a new authentication context and we put in as parameter a context file and a config file, sorry, and then we have like a way how to make a graph call. We have get graph token, which get a cache token from your local storage, and if that one is not there, we have another function that is the acquire token. Again, this is not what I wrote, this is just what I copied from the React adal documentation, even though it's a little bit more concise, but you get the general idea. Alright, so now that we have an authentication context, we can basically continue doing our check. So I need to import it, of course. That is import from /adal config, and I think the file name we call it of context exactly. So this to do now, we can delete it because we have done it, we're done with it, and we can now check here if not of context dot get cached user cached token of context dot config, that's the object, dot client ID. I made a typo, client ID. So if that does not equal a client ID, then and there is no of context get cached user. So if there's also no user, so there's no token for this particular client ID and there's no user. Alright, what we want to do then, we actually want this to authenticate, and we have this Microsoft Teams package which has a method called authentication and authenticate. So if we start that will create a pop-up where we have to log in. The funny thing is that I believe when I was working with it, it's on default height and width are 0 pixels, which basically means you can't see it. I tripped over that a few times, but okay, maybe that will improve in the future. So window.location.origin and we want to go to login start. If that's done, we want to have a width. I used the same width after using the documentation. I didn't change anything from that. Height, and that's I believe 535. Alright, and right now we have a success callback, which is a function results. Is there a result? I think it's an empty parameter, to be honest, but we can always see that later. And we have a failure check, failure callback, and same thing there, but that one returns a reason, like why is it not working. Alright, so that's basically what we're going to do, and it's not really that hard. And let me have a look if our if check for login end, if there is no login start, login end, then we can say okay, else. And I see that I forgot something, like over here I run it and I pass in a file, so there is a parameter coming back in there. So let's say okay, we want to run that. That works, and it's actually the same for like if this one, like if there is no catch token, we still want to go there. So we're gonna get else, and I'm gonna run an app. Alright, so now that is working, what we're going to do, we're going to write up our success callback and our failure callback. Alright, so if it's successful, then we can say like okay, let token ID equals, I put on my caps lock, of context dot get cached token of context dot config dot client ID. Okay, so that's basically where we get our token from the local storage, or if you use like the session storage, then it will get it from the session storage, but it will get it from the location where we save our tokens. So if ID token exists, is truthy, then we're going to run an app, and if not, then we're going to, well, usually throw an error and log it somewhere, but in this case I'm just going to say console log error could not retrieve the cached ID token, and that might be any reason. We could be able to go further into that, but for now it's not really necessary. So if there's really an error, like we couldn't complete the callback, then we're going to say like there was a reason, and if that equals cancelled by user, and I checked this before, so I'm just going to copy it so I don't make a typo that it doesn't work, because typos are like the horror of the world, right? Reason equals, and I think the other ones felt open to open window. That's when there's like a pop-up blocker. So sorry. From here we have to say like, hey, it got blocked by a pop-up, and I'll open the scheme for it. It got blocked we can't get there, so we don't have a hash, so it shows a login button, and there's a login button. We're just waiting for the user to click it, and then it starts to show the login screen again. So console.log, again, you should use better error handling than I'm doing right here. Login was blocked. A pop-up blocker blocked our pop-up. Wow, that's not the best sentence. A pop-up blocker blocked our. It's not going well with typing. A pop-up blocker blocked our pop-up. It's like a tongue twister. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I actually want to render the button, and I don't have anything else from the application at that time. So I'm going to use a React fragment, which is basically a div, but a div that doesn't render within the DOM. And we need to do that because React can only handle one parent element, one sibling element per parent. I'm saying that wrong. It can only handle one child per parent. So if we have like multiple siblings in an element, then it gives an error. So in that case, we either can use a div, but that one renders it to DOM, so it messes up with your accessibility. So we use React fragment because it doesn't show anything. Then run with adal, and then we get app. Okay, fine. Login. This is our login button. Give an exclamation mark to make certain we can log in from here. And this is something that I can get rid of right now because it's either coming from here or it's going to our app, and app is index-app.js, which basically renders our app. So that should work. We saw that we're doing login start, so we have to create this file, and I usually have a folder which says components. So let's look at the source in a folder called components. Sorry for that. Login. Oh, come on. Login start.js, and in React we usually use Pascal case for JS files. So import React, no need for that, from React. I actually wanted to type component, but we can do that in a different way as well. Of context from /adal.adal_config. Okay. Import our loader from React loader spinner. Okay. And import everything as Microsoft Teams from @microsoftteams.js. All right, and over there we have of context, and yeah, that's about it. Later we might use the CSS file here to do the styling. But for now we're just going to use a class-based component. We could use a function component. No, we could not, because I want to use the component dip mount. Well, we could with a hook, no problem, but for now I'm just going to do it this way. Extends react.components, and from there we're going to have a constructor. Okay, and in which I'll pass my props, and I also use a super props, which Webpack is actually doing for me, but let's just be certain that this doesn't break our game. And I'm going to say Microsoft Teams.initialize, so that is available within here. I think I can just output this like that. Component dip mount, and within there I'm going to say, okay, we have an off context what I actually want to do, I want to log in. So this will open the, oh that's nice, this will open our pop-up to log in to Microsoft, and I'm going to say render return some JSX div, not a div, a div, I said a div, okay, class name equals load spinner container, and we'll get to that later when we're going to style it. And I'm going to get a loader and type of oval, and it has a color which is let's just do something random, 3A 97 dB, which should be a bit bluish, I believe. Height equals 80, width equals 80. Excuse me. Okay, so this is basically going to get our spinner working, and I'll quickly show you the documentation. Otherwise, it looks like arcade magic, which it really isn't. React loading spinner, and this should be React loading spinner. Was that the name that we used? Let's have a look. React loader spinner. Oh, that's why I made a mistake. React loader spinner, and this actually shows us like, okay, there's several things that we can use here. I basically just use this. I didn't use a timeout, but these are like the kinds of spinners that you can use, and these are the properties that are available. And I think they have a demo project somewhere here, homepage, where you can see them in action like this. And no, that's not like how I'm talking. So they have like a lot of good spinners, so if you're looking for something, definitely check it out. And I'm not sponsored by them. Alright, so that means, except the styling, that we got this done. So we're going to do a login end, and I'm just gonna copy this because I'm getting a bit bored of writing this every time. And we could use a new file, which is login end.js. Yeah, same thing probably. I need to import styles, no problem. Export class login end extends. I didn't import it explicitly, so component. Yeah, okay. We're gonna do a component did mount. And let me write some pseudocode about what we're going to do here. When you are successfully logged in, we're going to get like a hash back from the Microsoft login service, which basically includes our token. So we want to make sure that the token includes, the callback includes the token hash. I'm not certain what is the real name for it, but good enough. And from there, if it's available, I want to know whether there is a user in the cache storage. And I use the word cache storage because it could be local storage, it could be session storage, or something totally different. So yeah, just bear with me. So let's get started. If of context, there's a typo. Of context dot is callback window dot location dot hash If that is available, then we want to use the auth context handle window callback, which is an adal function. If you use the regular adal, it also works like this. And we want to make certain that it gets the hash. Yeah, exactly. So this one should actually go up a few levels. Alt up arrow, then we can do that. And now I'm going to check, okay, if that one is true, then if that one is available, then the auth context of get cache user should be available. And from there, we're going to say Microsoft Teams dot authentication. Well, it works, right? So we can say notify success, and it should work. If not, then we're going to do something very similar. Microsoft Teams dot authentication dot notify failure, but we actually want to know what went wrong. And you can get it via the auth context get login error, I believe. Yeah, so that works. Let me just format this, auto format this. This is the end of my class, so we still need to have a render component, because we basically want to have like the same spinner as that we render here. I'm just gonna copy it. I'm lazy and I'm proud of it, because otherwise I would spend too much time typing. So let's now just also create login screen styles.css. And within the file, I'm gonna do, I forgot what I called it, load spinner container. Alright, not the best name. So what I'm going to do there is a display flex, because I want to be able to center it in the div, or in the page actually in this case, because it's a pop-up. And justify content, center, and align items center. And we can say the view height, the height actually is 100 view height. Does not work on IE, I believe 9 and lower, but it's not a target at this moment, so I really can't be bothered. So let's have a look. I think we pretty much, oh sorry, that's the wrong one. I think we pretty much covered it. It goes into the cycle, then it's the end, it's the check, then it goes there. I think we still need to do something with the app. Let's have a look with the index app. And from there we actually still have to include the routes in the normal app. So what I basically have to do, I have to import React, which is already there. I have to import several classes from React routing, so React router DOM, and the classes that I actually need from here are browser router, switch, and route. And once we've got that, I can actually delete this whole part. And they say export defaults. I'm going to use a class-based component. Could use hooks. Not gonna bother at this moment because the functionality is so small. Extends react.component, and from there on we're going to have a display name. Yeah, it's not really necessary. We're going to do a render, and alright. And there we have browser router. I'm seeing a mistake that I make more than once within React. You have to do a return and also make certain that these are like parentheses and not like curly braces, otherwise it also gives an error. And I actually thought I made that error, but I didn't. I just forgot to return. And Yeah, sometimes you have to search a little bit for that. So we're gonna do a switch. Switch basically means within the browser router, like there can only be one file active, so it will not render multiple parts under each other if it has multiple matches in the routes. This one has to be exact, and the path equals, and then we get the component which we don't have yet. So fine, just call it nothing for the moment, and I copy these two, and I'm gonna have a path which is login start, and that one we're going to call login start. Next we're going to have login ends, and let's just also call it here login ends. So we have these files, and my auto importer already tells me like you haven't imported the class yet. Do you want it? It's like thank you. And can I also do it here? I should be able to do that. Okay, that's a pity. Then we have to do it this way. So that one comes from login start, and this one is not called login end, but login. Pity. This one's called login start as well. Okay, funny. I have one class and I have like its used ones. Okay. But did I make a mistake then? Because it says like it's not being used at this moment. I think that's just a problem of my IDE. And no, it's not according to my IDE. Okay, why? What does it say? So it's declared, but it's never read. I'm quite certain that it's over here. I'm first gonna ignore this. I think this is okay. But what we do have to do, it was in the app, is to import that home component. So here we have to create something, and I'll just do that in here very quickly. I'll say home.js. I'm not gonna bother writing that all by myself. I'm just gonna do it very easily. Copy it, which is like a functional class. Import from. Would it be because login start is a default export? No, it's not. Okay, I really think it's weird. Components / home, and then we have home in here. Home. Save. Okay, still doesn't see it. So I think we are basically done. Let me think about it for one more second. We have index, we have, that's a check. So what I'm first going to do, before I publish it, I'm going to see whether there are any errors, because I make typing mistakes like so often, so I'm pretty certain there must be one in here, at least one. So let me see, Windows is not defined exactly. Well, Windows is defined in Windows, but I probably wanted to have window.location. Then it says login start is not defined, and this was already what I was wondering just now, like how come it cannot find login start? And that's because it's a capitalization error. Go figure. ID token is not defined in index. Okay, line number 26, ID token, and I have token ID. It's really too late. It's already like 12:30, but it's not really a problem. But this kind of errors slip in every now and then when it's getting later. It says like target Tom is not an element. Okay, why? I think this has to do with target, my target, so that's the second part. Render. Okay, so let's have a look. Yeah, I forgot to to include a root element here, and the root element is the same as we wrote before. That is the only element we have within our public HTML page. So I call it root element, which is document dot get element by ID, and that's root. And I probably could have do my best to prevent all this kind of errors by just planning everything out in the very detailed way, or just copy my code like some instructors do. But I think from these kind of errors we actually learn more than when it just all magically works. So I should get a pop-up. It doesn't work because I'm outside of my team's context. So what we have to do, we have to publish this to our repo. And let's just say created the application authentication. Pretty much describes what we're doing here. Push. I apologize. And let me have a look. I first go to Azure, to DevOps, to see what it's actually building, because that is important. Okay, it's building. So in the meantime, we can now actually log our application to Teams. So for this, you have a thing called App Studio. If you don't have it, you can click More Apps or Search App and you can install it. It's not a problem. And there's something called the Manifest Editor. So I already have one, but I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to make a new one, and I'm going to make my Teams application full screen. So you can use Microsoft-Teams. It's not an allowed name. So if I do that, I get an error later on. Here, test and distribute. It says oh no, it doesn't. But okay. Sometimes it says you're not allowed to use this because it's a copyrighted name. So what I'm going to do is MS authentication app, and the long name is Microsoft's. No, I can't do that. MS authentication app tutorial. Alright, and I'm going to generate a GUID. Well, it's not really important. The package name, I really wouldn't mind what it is right now. MS Teams / authentication version 1.0.0, and this is a short description. Oh, and I also did it wrong. On long description, let's make a run. This is a package that lets you log in Teams via adal.js. Name, developer information name is Elianix, and the website is http://somecompany.com. I'm not going to use my npm ID, it's a privacy statement. So for this one, what we can actually do, because we need it anyways, is our link to the application. So I have to come back to my app services, and in app services I'm going to get yeah, which one was it? I think it was Teams Off, right? Teams Off. Let's have a look. What's on there? No, I think that's wrong. Is it this one? Oh no, it's hard to check because of course we have both. Oh, that's fun. So I actually have to look back in my pipeline. So again, name your resources right. Otherwise you might get this kind of problems. Edit. And from here I can say get my sources. No, it's in my release, sorry. Edit, and from here I should be able to see where it's coming from or not. project MS Team off. It's a pipeline. No, I can't see that anymore. Now that's a pity. I'm pretty certain it was the Teams off. So let's just get started with that part. Okay, so that's like the URL. We're going back here, and we were actually must be a valid login. Okay, here you go. And we're going to say privacy, and next up we're going to use terms. So it needs you to specify this. I don't have it because it's a tutorial, and I'm not going to spend too much time on that. So what we want to do, we want to have an tab, and we're going to call this home. And the unique ID is also home, and it's also just the root of our site. And okay, fine. Now I'm going to say we're going to publish it, not here, but here, and it's supposed to be a pre-production environment. Yeah, okay, no problem. Add MS authentication app, and it says, oh, this is a very nice error. It says like we're using ISS, so it cannot find a file login start, and it has to do with the routing. We need to do something like a routing rewrite, and have it in copy. I'll share this file with you in the video, but for now let's just do it this way. So that has to be in the source, and we call it a web.config. And if you remember, in my build pipeline I actually set this up. I'll show this again in a moment. Let's just first get this out, and that's web config, save, push. Okay, so then we have to go to my pipeline, my DevOps, and here you can see it's building a new one because we pushed, and from our edit button we can see that over here I said copy my web config. And everything that's called something.config, it will copy. And this really has to do with ISS. If you would be using a Apache server, you would use a file called htaccess. So it's basically the same thing. I have to take a drink. Alright, so now that this is going, we just have to wait for a second. And once this is done, I think we should have done it in one time, because I don't really see any place where there could have been an error. But it's late, so it might be. I'll just have to see this through, then see what's happening. Yeah. 45 seconds. So usually a small application should take around a minute on a good connection. It's taking some while, so I'm first gonna pause it and then just continue when it's when it has been. Oh, I don't need to pause it because it magically went through. Alright, so I think this will be done very fast now. Building our dev, so it's making a build, and we can see that here. It's just doing the build. And it's going to check it out. Okay, and now it's going to make a new release. If I refresh my page, oh, there it is. I can't even imagine life anymore without CI/CD. I really love it. Alright, it's in progress. Ready for the job. Okay, perfect. 2 out of 3. Has 4 tasks in total. Even though it says 3 now, usually it has 4. Exactly. Okay, so now it should work. So we go back to Teams, and from here I can say like I want to go to OneNote first, and then after that I'm going back to MS authentication. And oh yeah, this is like a bug I didn't tell you about yet, but we'll see that soon enough. It doesn't seem to work. That's a pity. So if we go to teams.microsoft.com, we can actually see that we have a developer console log where we can actually see what is going wrong, because just now I couldn't see that. It's working. Alright, so if I check in here now, test off, I should have a ID token for the graph. And if I copy that and I go to what's the name again, jwt.io, you can see that it's working, that it's invalid. Okay, I didn't copy it well, I guess. Let's try it again. Copy. It's not correct. Why not? What's wrong with it then? Oh, that's a nonce. Sorry, it's really late. Okay, there's a nonce token. I need to have the ID token, of course, and this is valid. And if we see, there was an issuer issued ad, which was like 12:43 on December 6, 2019, and it expires 1 hour later. So that's working. Now we just had to click the button. If I do this, comes to me with the button again, and I think the problem is that I'm not really too certain what they did in the package itself, but if we add like a timeout to the index, then it's all magically solved. So this is kind of weird, and I'm going to go into my index, and over here I can show you that if I do this, it should work. So I'm going to publish it again, which is inserted a timeout, and I only put a timeout of like 500 seconds. I think there's a listener that is listening to something when the DOM or something was not ready yet, because if you open it in Teams, it automatically opens your pop-up, and I'm not really too certain what's happening here, but adding the timeout will resolve it. So I should actually make a bug report of it to find out what's going on here. And of course then it tells me like you're trying to run an async function, which is just not possible. And yeah, let me see, it's an async function, not a function async, so that should work. Alright, now it works again, so I have to repush it. Make function async, and that's the ES7 feature to get rid of promises, so that really works pretty well. It's going to get a new build again, and this time I'll just pause it so you don't have to wait and see it again, because that's not really nice. So I'll see you guys when it's done. Alright, so it took a little bit longer than I thought, because I actually had 2 bugs within the application. Let's first have a look at those. In login start, no, sorry, in app.js, I wrote component with uppercase C, and it should be lowercase. If it's uppercase, it won't work, it won't give you an error, so it's kind of hard to debug. And we also had a styling error in our login screen styles. Height was 10 VH and it should be 100 VH, so that's basically what I changed. So after that, what I basically did, I went to deploy it. I pushed it, deployed it, and when we go over here, you can see that within the pipelines, I actually did a build and it released. Okay, so we can now actually take a look at whether it works. And I already tested it, it works, but let's go through it from the beginning. I put an icon here, so MS authentication. And if I go here, we see like automatically it works. Now, I would like to be able to inspect the token. So to be able to get the DevTools, you have to left click the Teams icon in the icon tray 7 times and then put the right mouse click on it. We can open DevTools and select Web Contents and say Web View. And if we go to Elements, you can see that this is the section of the iframe that's being included within our application within Teams. So if I go to Application, this is what Teams actually shows me. And this is what we actually created ourselves. And we can see that I have an adal ID token, which I can use to create a graph, for example. So it works here, but let's also make sure that it works within the web version of it, the web client version of Teams. You can find it at teams.microsoft.com. And if I go here, and I actually don't want it to do it right away. I actually want to see whether the pop-up blocker is working and whether it will give us an alternative way to log in by using the button. So I'll go to settings. I have a Dutch system, so I'll translate as I go. It opened on my second screen. Let me close that. If we go to advanced, privacy and security, then there's site settings and there's pop-ups. Okay, this is not allowed, that is not allowed. Okay, sure, so it should be blocked. So I don't know why it didn't block it. Let's refresh. Alright. Okay, no biggie. Let's delete all of our history and also close this one. And what I'll do, I'll say like, okay, open Chrome, sure, go to teams.microsoft.com, log in with my ID, and from there, I have to fill in my password, and probably I will get a multi-factor sign-on as well. Yes, I was expecting it. So I have to use my authenticator. Approve. Alright, thank you. So now it's gonna load for a bit. Use the web app. I don't want to download it. And let's say we want to go. That's too fast. It was not loaded yet. And it's authentication. Okay, now it says here pop-up was blocked. So I can either unblock it, but I want to actually show the non-happy flow. So login. There's a spinner. It's logged in. Press F12 for the DevTools, and I have an ID token. So even though it was not too hard to build the authentication, it mainly was hard to find out how to do it because of the lack of documentation. I created this video tutorial to make it easier for people to find out how to actually authenticate within Microsoft Teams with custom apps, and I hope that it was useful to you. So if you have any opinion about the tutorial that you just watched, please leave me a message so that I can also improve myself. Alright, thank you very much and have a good day.